Welcome. I'm Richard Clarke, and I'm hosting this satsang. I've followed Ramana Maharshi since 1990. Upon retirement, my wife Carol and I moved to Tiruvannamalai, home to Ramana Ashram. We lived there for 8 years and now live in Mexico. I've offered this kind of satsang for more than 10 years. I'm just a seeker like you. I have been blessed with years of deep teaching and practice, and I just want to share what I love. That's why I offer these satsangs. This is a Ramana Maharshi self-knowledge satsang. We focus on self-knowledge since that's what brings self-realization. So I say, know yourself and be always free and at peace. We're going through Ramana's Who Am I, one paragraph at a time, and we're on paragraph 7. Although the world and knowledge thereof rise and set together, it is by knowledge alone that the world is made apparent. That perfection wherein the world and knowledge thereof rise and set, and which shines without rising or setting, is alone the reality. My comment: I don't think Ramana could be any more clear. We see our reality as either outside or within. When the mind goes out, it gives up its identity as the self and projects its own seeming reality onto what is in actuality the self, which has no ego, not even a mind. Advaita Vedanta, the teaching of non-duality, is the tradition that best describes Ramana's realization and teaching. And Advaita says, what is real is that which is always, and what is unreal is that which comes and goes. As long as the world and ego is thought to be reality, then the reality of the self will be obscured. As long as your stand, where you place your identity, is as a world, body, senses, flow of energy, mind, ego, then your identity will not be as the self. The self is obscured by all these misidentifications. Likewise, self-realized sages do not see the world as objective, as anything outside of themselves, or as anything other than themselves. The sages see only the self. Now here are some practice notes, things to reflect and meditate upon. What you want is not the intellectual understanding of this teaching. You want the actual experience for yourself. So here's some questions to reflect and meditate. For whom is the world? Has anyone ever seen the world without a mind? Does your sense of I, your sense of identity, arise from the world? When this knowledge is your experience, reality is revealed within you as yourself. It is not discovered anew or created. Reality has always been with you as your deepest being, yourself. Now onto our videos for the week. First, we're going to play a selection from the Ribhu Gita. Now, the Sanskrit version of the Ribhu Gita appeared in a little-known ancient text, Shiva Rasam, which is the Shaivite equivalent to the Bhagavad Gita is to the Vaishnavites. It was originally composed in Sanskrit and was translated and rewritten into Tamil in the 1880s. This Tamil version was one of the first books Ramana read after self-realization, one whose message clearly accorded with what he had realized within himself. In Ramana's days, there were regular group readings of the Tamil text at Ramanashram in the evening after the day's visitors had gone home. Devotees would sit in a circle and take turns reading out verses from the book. Ramana would join in these group readings, and Ramana said that reading the book was like being in samadhi. It was the most recited text at Ramanashram in Ramana's time. According to Anamali Swami, Bhagavan often said that we should read and study the Ribhu Gita regularly. In the Ribhu Gita, it is said that bhavana, the cultivation, calling into being, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am Brahman, I am everything, is to be repeated again and again until this becomes the natural state. In describing the self or Brahman, negation is primarily used because the self can never be an object, can never be what is perceived or conceived. By negation in the process of self-inquiry, the ignorance of identifying one's own existence with an individual body and mind is destroyed. This destruction of ignorance is really not the destruction of anything real, since the false identification as the seeing individual just consists of assumptions, of ideas. What remains after this so-called destruction is not anything new. It is not something achieved. It is not a transformation. Rather, it is what has been your innermost identity all of the time. This is a translation of the Tamil text that was regularly read at Ramanashram. The first English translation was done by my teacher, Nome, working with a Tamil and Sanskrit scholar, Dr. Ramamurthy, and is what is available in the Ramana Ashram bookstore in India. The Ribhu Gita takes an uncompromising Advaita Vedanta line by line, repeatedly affirming that Brahman alone is the sole reality, and that everything else that appears to exist is really just like last night's dream. So now we will go and listen to a recitation of chapter 26 of the Song of Ribhu.
Chapter 26, Ribhu Gita. I shall now expound to you the method of abiding in the all-inclusive and undifferentiated reality. This teaching is secret and difficult to understand, even with the help of various scriptures. Even celestial beings and practitioners of spiritual discipline who hold it dear acquire it only with great difficulty. Follow what I say, and abiding in reality, be happy. My son, my daughter, realized sages say that absolute inherence in reality means becoming one with the immutable, tranquil, non-dual, absolute supreme being, which is existence, consciousness, bliss, and the self of all, and making the wandering mind one with it like the proverbial milk and water, absolutely free from all concepts. When one scrutinizes this variety of manifestation, one realizes that it does not really exist, and that everything is the undifferentiated, absolute supreme being, which is not different from the self and oneself. Let this knowledge become firm with you by constant practice. Then, discarding everything, become one with the supreme absolute reality, and remaining as that, be happy. Abide as that which does not, when scrutinized, show any duality in the form of these various objects, or the least trace of cause and effect. That in which, when the mind is absorbed in it, there is no fear of duality at all. And be always happy, unshakable, and free from the fear arising from duality. Abide as that in which there are neither thoughts nor fancies, neither peace nor self-control, neither the mind nor the intellect. Neither confusion nor certainty, neither being nor non-being, and no perception of duality. And be always happy, unshakable, and absolutely free from the fear arising from duality. Abide as that in which there is neither any defect nor good quality, neither pleasure nor pain, neither thought nor silence, neither misery nor austerities practiced for getting rid of misery. No I am the body idea, no objects of perception whatsoever, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide as that in which there is no work, physical, mental, verbal, or any other kind, neither sin nor virtue, neither attachment nor its consequences, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide as that in which there are neither thoughts nor a thinker, neither the arising nor the preservation nor the dissolution of the world, nothing whatsoever at any time, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide as that in which there is neither the self-limiting power or of illusion, nor its effects. Neither knowledge nor ignorance, neither separate soul nor Lord of creation, neither being nor non-being, neither world nor God. And be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide is that in which there are no gods in their worship, none of the three divine aspects of Creator, Preserver, and Destroyer, or meditation on them, no supreme formless God, nor meditation on Him, and be always happy, without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which there is neither maturing bondage to the way of good works, nor devotion to the divine, nor self-knowing wisdom, no fruits of action to be enjoyed, no supreme state separate from it, no means of attainment or object to be attained, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide is that in which there is neither body nor senses nor vital forces, neither mind nor intellect nor fancy, neither ego nor ignorance, nor anyone who identifies himself with them, neither the macrocosm nor the microcosm, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide is that in which there is neither desire nor anger, neither greed nor delusion, neither ill will nor pride, no impurities of mind, and no false notions of bondage and liberation, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide is that in which there is no beginning or end, no top or bottom or middle, no holy place or God, no gifts or pious acts, no time or space, no objects of perception, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide is that in which there is no discrimination between the real and the unreal, no absence of desire, no possession of virtues, no yearning for liberation, no competent master or disciple, no steady knowledge, no realized stage, no liberation while alive or after death, nothing whatsoever at any time, and be always happy, free from all traces of thought. Abide is that in which there are no holy scriptures or sacred books, no one who thinks, no objection or answer to it, no theory to be established, no theory to be rejected, nothing other than oneself, and be always happy, free from the least trace of thought. Abide as that in which there is no debate, no success or failure, no word or its meaning, no speech, no difference between the soul and the Supreme Being, none of the manifold causes and consequences, and be always happy, without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which there's no need for listening, reflecting, and practicing. No meditation to be practiced, no differences of sameness, otherness, or internal contradictions. No words or their meanings, and be always happy, free from the least traces of thought. Abide is that in which there are no fears of hell, no joys of heaven, no worlds of the Creator or other gods or any object to be gained from them, no other world, no universe of any kind, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which there's nothing of the elements, nor even an iota of their derivatives. No sense of I or mind, no fantasies of the mind, no blemish of attachment, no concept whatsoever, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which there are none of the three kinds of bodies, gross, physical, subtle, internal, or formless and most subtle. Abide is that in which there is no dreaming and sleeping, none of the three kinds of the souls, those who are fully prepared to advance spiritually, those who are not fully prepared, and those who are not prepared at all. None of the three kinds of afflictions, those of the body, those caused by the elements, and those caused by subtle beings and powers. Abide is that in which none of the five functional layers of being, gross, physical, vital, emotional, psychic, mental, and that of the formless bliss, no one to identify himself with them, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which there is no sentient object, no power to hide reality, no difference of any kind, no power of projecting unreal objects, no power of any other kind, no false notion about the world, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which there are no sense organs or anyone to use them, that in which transcendent bliss is experienced, that which is absolutely immediate, that by realizing and attaining which one becomes immortal, that by becoming which one does not return to the cycle of birth and death, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that on realizing and experience the bliss of which all joys appear to be joys of that which, when clearly known to be oneself, shows there is nothing apart from oneself, and knowing which all kinds of separate souls become liberated, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that on realizing which to be oneself, there is nothing else to be known. Everything becomes already known and every purpose accomplished, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which is attained easily when one is convinced that one is not different from the Absolute. That which results when that conviction becomes firm in the experience of the supreme bliss of the real. That which produces a sense of incomparable and complete satisfaction when the mind is absorbed in it, and be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that which leads to the complete sensation of misery when the mind is absorbed in it, and the extinction of all ideas of I, you, and another, and the disappearance of all differences. And be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that in which, when the mind is absorbed in it, one remains without a second. Nothing other than oneself is seen to exist, and incomparable bliss is experienced. And be always happy without the least trace of thought. Abide is that which is undifferentiated existence, undifferentiated consciousness, undifferentiated bliss, absolutely non-dual, the undifferentiated absolute reality, and with the firm conviction that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that in which I, as well as you, as well as everyone else, is the basis of all, is one without saying else, is one without anything else whatsoever, is extremely pure, the undifferentiated whole, and with the firm conviction that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that in which there are no concepts or anything else whatsoever. The ego ceases to exist, all desires disappear, the mind becomes extinct, and all confusions come to an end. And be firmly convinced that you are that. Be always happy. Abide is that in which there is no awareness of the body or the various functions of the manifest experience, no perception of objects, that in which the mind is dead, the soul become one with the reality, thoughts dissolved, and even one's convictions no longer hold. And being firmly convinced that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that in which there are no longer any meditative spiritual practice, or ignorance, or knowledge, or activities of any kind, that which is the supreme reality. Be firmly convinced that you are that. Be always happy. Abide is that in which, when one is completely merged with it, one experiences pure bliss, never experiences misery, sees nothing, does not take birth again, nor think oneself to be a separate individual, becomes the Supreme Being, and being convinced that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that in which is truly the Supreme Absolute Reality, the Supreme Formless God, the absolutely pure Being, the Supreme State, Absolute Consciousness, the Supreme Truth, and with the conviction that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that in which the absolutely pure Supreme Being, absolute bliss, the supremely subtle Being, the self-effulgent, non-dual, and undifferentiated One, and with the conviction that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that which is absolute truth, supreme tranquility, eternal being, absolutely attributeless, the self, the absolutely undifferentiated supreme being. And being convinced that you are that, be always happy. Abide is that in which everything from the experiential point of view and nothing from the absolute point of view, existence, consciousness, bliss, always tranquil, with nothing separate from it, the self-existent being, and being convinced that you are that, be always happy. I have thus clearly explained to you the state of being with the Supreme Being. By constantly thinking that you are the undifferentiated Supreme Being, you can attain that state and enjoy constant bliss. Thereafter, having become the Supreme Absolute Reality, you will never experience the misery that comes from identification with birth and death. Everything is the Supreme Being, which is existence, consciousness, bliss, and I am that. By constantly cultivating this pure thought, get rid of impure thoughts. Then, my child, discarding even that thought, and always abiding in the state of fullness, you will become the non-dual and undifferentiated Supreme Being and attain liberation. Pure and impure thoughts are a feature of the mind. There are no wandering thoughts in the Supreme Being. Therefore, abide as that, and free from the pure and impure thoughts of the mind, remain still like a stone or a log of wood. You will then be always happy. By constantly thinking of the undifferentiated Supreme Being, and forgetting thereby all thoughts, including the thought of the Supreme Being, you will become the all-comprehensive Supreme Being. Even a great sinner who hears and understands this teaching will get rid of all his sins and become the undifferentiated Supreme Being. The endless textbooks of spiritual instruction have already prescribed meditation for attaining purity of mind. In order of those who have become pure in mind may easily attain liberation, and realizing that they are the absolute and boundless bliss, remain like a stone in the undifferentiated and all-comprehensive Supreme Formless God. The nature of this immaculate state has been expounded by me. Therefore, attaining purity of mind, by constantly thinking that everything that is known is the Supreme Being, and that the Supreme Being is one self, and therefore abiding in that state of complete identity with the Absolute Reality, liberation can be attained here and now. I have spoken the truth. When one is convinced that one is always that which is existence, consciousness, bliss, and abides as that in a state of complete identity, one casts off the unreal bondage of identification with birth and death and attains liberation. This is the significance of the highly blissful mood and dance of our supreme and undifferentiated God. Conclusion, Chapter 26, the Ribhu Gita.
Wow, that was intense. Now we'll listen to my teacher, Nome, and meditate along with him. He wants you to experience what he's talking about. Excuse me, I did something wrong here. Here it comes.
What is to be realized is the reality of the self, which alone exists, solitary, and as the Upanishads say, one without a second. That is, you must realize that self to be the only self there is, and the only existence. Where there is duality, there is illusion. That is, duality is a product of delusion. So if you consider yourself to be one thing, and the absolute self, or Brahman, God, another, then you ought to inquire and determine what precisely is your nature. If you inquire or attempt to find out about this, assuming you are one thing and other, apart from the real self, that's not the best way. The thing to do is to start with your very existence, which is always singular. The very fact of your existence, and determine what that being actually is. It is not an object, it is not something you do. This inquiry pertains to who you are. As the Maharshi points out time and again in his instruction, if we imagine ourselves to be an individual, an I notion, an I thought as he calls it, that is the conception of another. And if we imagine a this, a world of our experience, in which I is always implicit, that is also an other. When we see reality without other, then we are free of delusion and the consequence of delusion, which is imagined bondage or suffering. In truth, your being is that which is unborn, indivisible, and imperishable. It is that which is utterly undifferentiated and never formed into anything other than what it is. There is no other for it. If we consider ourselves to be other than it, then we imagine bondage, as was said before. And we also make efforts to get back to that which we are all the time. Effort best applied is in knowing oneself and finding out how your being never changes, never becomes other than what it is. And what it is the Absolute itself, or Brahman. If you say you become misidentified with something, the body and mind, something in the world, you become attached to something. All of such is based on the idea of another. For whom is this other? If we inquire like this, the false sense of a limited I and all notions of otherness vanish because they're merely illusory, merely imagined. If we know ourselves along these lines, then it becomes readily comprehensible why such a great sage as Shankara would say that all this is Brahman, or all this is the self, and also Brahman or the self alone is. And also, there is no other, there is no world. All these statements signify the same thing. The invariable, immutable, indivisible reality, which is what in truth you are. Imagine yourself to be a distinct thing, and there'll be all kinds of other things. Know yourself for what you really are, and the knower and the known being identical, there is no other thing. That is no I, no world of experience for this I. Just one eternally existing being, consciousness, bliss. If there is the notion, something obstructs my realizing the truth, what is this other thing that would get in the way between yourself and yourself? And who would be separated? By what? If you examine your nature in this manner, there is nothing obstructing the realization of the self. This is why the Maharshi has said that we only loosely speak of realizing the self, how to make real, or more real, that which is already real. It is simply a matter of abandonment of ignorance. And the reality's knowledge of itself, the self's knowledge of itself, stands self-revealed. Inquire within yourself and know yourself as you are, as that which alone is. And if at any point you have a question, feel free to ask. Or if you wish to relate your own experience, please feel free to do so.
And now we're going to take a few minutes for meditation, for inquiry, and I'll guide you as we go. Sit and close your eyes and be in a comfortable position and notice your breath going in and out. And then just notice that you exist. You exist, and you know that you exist. You know this without thinking about it or without sensing it. It's something deeper than your mind or your senses. You exist, and you know that you exist. And use that deep place as a place to start your inquiry. Now, inquire, investigate within yourself what within you is always there. What in your experience now is the same as in your oldest memory. Just dismiss everything that comes and goes. It is not who you are. You are who you are always. Inquire, who am I? What is the nature of my existence? You are who you are always. If it's something that comes and goes, that cannot be you. You're the one who knows that. You don't come and go. All right. Now we will do a short chant. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you for watching today. And if this satsang was of interest to you, I have more resources, a free book site, a YouTube site, and my blog. The URLs will be on the screen next. There will be more of these satsangs in the coming weeks as we continue with this series based on Ramana's book, Who Am I? Thank you for letting me share this teaching with you. Now, here are the URLs. The book that we're using, Who Am I with Comments, is available at the free book download site that's listed below. I'll leave this on the screen for a few seconds so you can copy it down. See you next time.